Welcome to the second Yuva Sustainability webinar of the Yuva Sustainability Internship program. The webinar is being held by the Voices of Bharat Yuva for Sustainability Initiative, which seeks to empower youth storytellers and advance sustainability. The initiative has been launched by Sustainability Karma with Lok Samvad Sansthan as implementation partner. This particular webinar is being held in association with the Kanodia PG Mahila Mahavidyalaya. Our aim is to partner with as many educational institutions to take this to the students directly. My name is Rajiv Tikku. I'm the convener of this Yuva for Sustainability initiative. I'll be joined by my co-moderator Nana Gautam as we go along. The topic today is telling climate and disaster stories right. The recent disasters in Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh have once again brought climate and disaster events under spotlight. These events underscore the importance of how effective storytelling plays an important role in shaping public understanding and responses to climate change and disasters. In the first 25 days of August 25, North India had 21 events of extremely heavy rain, which is 50% more than the last year in the same period. India recorded 3,000 human deaths due to extreme weather events in 24-25, which is 70% rise from 23-24. So those are the figures, but the whole aim is to look beyond figures and facts, actually look at the stories themselves. So without much further ado, I'm delighted to invite Mr. Kalyan Kothari, co-convener of Voices of Bharat Yuva for Sustainability, to say a few words.
मैं आप सबका सतत विकास के द्वितीय राष्ट्रीय वेबिनार में स्वागत करता हूं। युवा फॉर सस्टेनेबिलिटी पहल के बारे में साझा करते हुए गर्व महसूस कर रहा हूं। हमने यह पहल 5 जून 2025 को विश्व पर्यावरण दिवस पर राजस्थान के मुख्यमंत्री भजनलाल जी शर्मा द्वारा शुरू की गई थी। इसका मकसद है 18 से 29 वर्ष के युवाओं को सस्टेनेबिलिटी चैंपियन के रूप में तैयार करना। हम 500 से अधिक युवाओं को सस्टेनेबिलिटी स्टोरी टेलिंग की ट्रेनिंग देंगे ताकि वे देश भर में 1 करोड़ से अधिक लोगों को पर्यावरण और जलवायु परिवर्तन का संदेश पहुंचा। इस वेबिनार का उद्देश्य जलवायु और आपदा की कहानियां, क्लाइमेट और डिजास्टर स्टोरीज की कहानियों को जिम्मेवारी से बताने की क्षमता को मजबूत करना है। इसमें युवाओं की महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका है। आपको विशेषज्ञों के माध्यम से जिम्मेदार कहानी कहने की कला को सटीकता से अवगत कराया जाएगा ताकि प्रभावित समुदायों की गरिमा को बनाए रखी जा सके। साल के बीच में रिफ्रेशर वर्कशॉप होंगी, इसमें प्रगति का मूल्यांकन और सुझाव दिए जाएंगे। 21 जुलाई को जयपुर में पहला राज्य स्तरीय युवा सस्टेनेबिलिटी सम्मेलन सफलतापूर्वक कानोड़िया पीजी महाविद्यालय में संपन्न हुआ। युवाओं को सशक्त करें और मिलकर एक ऐसा भारत गढ़ें जो पर्यावरण के प्रति सजग और जिम्मेदार विकास की राह पर अग्रसर होते हैं।
I will welcome Dr. Seema Agarwal to this webinar, and I'll also invite her to deliver her welcome address.
Namaskar to everyone who are joined this webinar from different areas of India. This is the best advantage of webinar, that we can virtually connect and share our ideas through the webinars. So this is my privilege that I am here to welcome you on behalf of this organizing team, Yuva for Sustainability. And this is a very required platform because we know we interact with young girls, and most of them, they are interested that, ma'am, we are ready to do anything by which we can aware young girls regarding the environment, regarding the carbon footprint, regarding the sustainability. So this Yuva for Sustainability is fulfilling that platform. And as Kalyan sir has mentioned, that on 21st July, the first offline interactive section was conducted in our college, and it was attended by many students, and out of which we have framed a team of 10 volunteers that will be known as members of Yuva Club. And since initially we have decided that there will be 10 members, but we have lot of students who want to be member of that. So this initiative is very beneficial, very required. I'm glad that most of our students are getting benefited by this. So I'm here to welcome each and everyone who has joined this. First, my welcome is Dr. Dev Sharup, Vice Chancellor Vishwakarma University, who is with us as a chief guest. Then we have with us as a speaker Professor Govind Singh, who is chairing the session, who is media advisor from Uttarakhand. As you know, right now Uttarakhand is facing heights of disaster. So I welcome you, Govind sir. Then our next speaker is Professor Kanchan K. Malik, who is from Department of Communication, Hyderabad. So welcome, Ms. Malik. Next speaker is Professor Ramesh Menon, who is from Symbiosis Institute of Media and Communication. Welcome you, sir. Then we have with us Ms. Meenakshi Gupta, co-founder, Goonj NGO. We welcome you, Meenakshi ma'am. Then we have Mr. Sarabjit Singh, who is disaster and risk rescuer from UNICEF. He is expert of disaster management. Welcome, sir. Then we have with us Miss Naina Gautam, who is editor, podcaster, and she is also engaged in doing all these kind of awareness session. And the most important key founder of this webinar, Kalyan Kothari sir, I welcome you. And since Rajiv sir is moderator of this entire session, so since I'm welcoming, so sir, I cannot forget you also to welcoming. And I welcome my heartiest welcome to all the young minds who have joined this webinar. Actually, the entire team of Voices of Bharat and Yuva for Sustainability, they are doing all these efforts to awaken you and to give you a platform where you can share your ideas and where you can aware other your classmates, relatives, family members regarding the sustainability. Sustainability is one and the only thing by which we can imagine for a beautiful country, obviously a beautiful world, because India is a major part of entire globe. So this is the collective duty of all of us, that wherever we are working, whatever we are doing, we have to do some efforts for sustainability as per our capacity. So when we talk about ourselves, so what we do, we motivate more and more people. And as this webinar is regarding storytelling, so we know that we can forget few things which are delivered as form of lecture. But when something is shared in a form of story, that lasts long in our mind. So this is a very good idea by Voices of Bharat to organize these kind of webinar as well as offline sessions where this storytelling sessions regarding sustainability, disaster. As we know, we read every day in newspaper, but after few days we read something else and we forget the earlier news. But when we listen stories, they stay in our mind. And my advice is that whenever we listen one story, we should tell that story to someone else. Then the sustainability of that story in our memory will become much longer. I wish that this will be a beneficiary for all the participants as the earlier sessions also. So thank you very much to Rajiv sir and Kalyan sir for giving me this opportunity to welcome all the dignitaries and participants in this webinar of Yuva for Sustainability. Thank you, sir. Once again, warm welcome to everyone.
And thanks a lot for those generous comments. And thanks a lot for joining and taking out time. And I'll now welcome Chief Guest Professor Dev Sarup.
With regard to sustainability, I would like to say that as students, as future leaders, as responsible citizens, the voice of youth storytellers matters more. The stories they choose to tell and how they choose to tell them can shape how society understands climate change and disasters. Storytelling is not just about words. This is my belief. It is about truth, compassion, and responsibility. I am sure that everybody would realize the importance of all these things. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot for joining and taking out time. And I'll now welcome Nana Gautamji, who's editor and podcast of Sustainability Karma, to give a quick short message to our participants, interns who have joined from Noida to Assam and Jaipur to Odisha. And I'm also delighted to welcome as a new vertical of participants here. We have quite a few community radio station representatives who have joined surprisingly from the Himalayan belt particularly, and Kanchanji, they have joined right up to Nepal. So, Bastardji is also here. Thanks a lot for joining in, and we're really glad because at some stage we'll have local communities connecting through community radio station with our future storytellers. Thanks a lot for joining in.
So, the US for Sustainability Internship has started. Here's what to expect: fortnightly webinars with experts who move the needle, monthly masterclasses to level up your skills, on ground workshops and conferences to network and showcase content. Content creation opportunities, reels, podcasts, videos, and digital stories that amplify your voice. And here is what it leads to: certificates on completion, awards and recognition by an eminent jury, advanced internships, and roles as sustainability ambassadors with partner organizations. This is your runway to build credibility as sustainability ambassadors with partner organizations. Now, the ball is in your court. Show up, engage, and let your work speak for the future you want to create.
Thanks a lot for that quick, brief note to our interns. And is it possible to let interns themselves introduce themselves very briefly, quickly, where they come from and their names? Can
Apurva Mittal. I am doing a MSc in botany. I'm currently in semester 1 and I'm doing my education from University of Rajasthan, Jaipur. Thank you.
मेरा नाम राहुल ठाकरे है और हम केवी के यवतमाल के रेडियो नौ संजीवनी के लिए अभी हम काम करते हैं, कम्युनिटी रेडियो के लिए.
Good evening, panelists. I'm Gaurangi Hari. I have recently graduated from Amity University, Noida, with a degree in Economic Honors. I'm excited for this webinar.
Good evening, everyone. I am Ishika Bhardwaj from Haridev Joshi University. I am currently in 3rd semester and I'm from Jaipur.
Ishka Bhausar, and I am currently studying my graduation from Kanodia PG Mahila Mahavidyalaya. My subject is Economic Honors, and I'm also an NSS volunteer.
I'm Setal Gajiwala. I'm Reliance School, Surat. I want to excite to know about sustainable. That's why I joined the webinar, sir.
Sabyasachi from Odisha. I have completed my graduation with chemistry honors. Now I am pursuing my MSc, and I am as a NSS volunteer.
And I'm Ravina CS from Reliance Foundation School, Surat. I was much more interested to know much about the panel and about the sustainability. So here I'm there to know and learn more things. I'm a teacher in Surat, so I'm more interested for this.
Hello. Good afternoon. This is Bandana. I work in MAN, and we have a community radio station in Purulia. And in my opinion, sustainability and climate change is the most pressing issue, I think. So this is a great opportunity. Thank you for this opportunity.
I'm from Assam, and currently I'm pursuing an integrated MSc in Life Sciences, and I'm looking forward to today's webinar.
I am Anuseni from Kanoria PG Mahila Mahavidyalaya, and currently I'm pursuing second year from BA Pass course. I opted for geography, English literature, political science. And I'm very excited for this seminar. And thank you, everyone.
This is Shikha Bharti Rajdhan. I'm an educator and I'm pursuing PhD in climate education.
Here is Satishan. I am also a PhD scholar. Doing a PhD in applied linguistics and the environmental crisis and also the CLI-5. So currently I'm working as the Dean of Academics in one of the prestigious institutions in Hyderabad.
In the meantime, Nana, I would invite you to please introduce our esteemed panelists and we can begin the webinar.
It's my immense pleasure to welcome Professor Govind Singh. He's a media advisor to Uttarakhand CM and Chairman Media Advisory Committee Government of Uttarakhand. He's a former Dean Academics, Indian Institute of Mass Communication and has held several positions of importance in his long illustrious career, beginning as a journalist to training future journalists. He has won several awards on his way. Welcome, Professor Govind Singh. Then we have Professor Kanchan K. Malik, who is professor at the Department of Communication, University of Hyderabad, and a faculty fellow with the UNESCO Chair on Community Media. She began her career as a journalist with the Economic Times before transitioning to academia. She is recipient of Fulbright Fellowship. She has authored and co-edited several publications. Her publications also include a UNESCO manual on gender and a book on environmental communication in India. We also have Ramesh Menon, is a journalist, filmmaker, and corporate trainer. He has authored 7 books. He has been an adjunct professor of Symbiosis Institute of Media and Communications, Pune since 2017. He's a recipient of the prestigious Ramnath Goenka Award for Excellence in Journalism. Welcome, Mr. Ramesh Menon. Meenakshi Gupta is co-founder of Goonj, a globally recognized Indian social enterprise working at the intersection of dignity, development, and disaster response. Previously with the BBC, she is also founding member of Catalyst 2030, a global network of social entrepreneurs working to advance progress towards the UN Sustainable Development Goals. She has also served on the juries of multiple awards, including India's prestigious Nari Shakti Puraskar. We have Sarabjit Singh Sahota, disaster risk reduction specialist at UNICEF. He is an authority in the space of disaster risk reduction with over 25 years of experience in translating global development frameworks into impactful programs at the national and state levels. He has proven expertise in steering risk-informed programming, particularly in child-centered disaster risk reduction, climate change adaptation, and humanitarian action. Welcome, Mr. Sahota.
Thanks a lot for giving a brief introduction about all our esteemed panelists today. Thanks a lot for that. And let me begin with Professor Govind Singh, who has been a journalist, who has been an educationist also, and now he's also working with the government. Sir, how difficult is it for the government to engage with media during disasters when disaster management is the priority, but then I think, it's an equally onerous task to manage the media also during disasters. So what are the challenges faced by government in such a situation? And Govind Singh ji comes from Uttarakhand himself, of course.
Thank you, Rajiv ji. Thank you very much for inviting me. आपने बहुत अच्छा सवाल किया है कि गवर्नमेंट कैसे हैंडल करती है ये सब काम। ये वाकई बहुत चैलेंजिंग काम है, रियली बहुत ही मुश्किल काम एक तरह से गवर्नमेंट्स के लिए होता है। खतरों के बारे में, डिसास्टर के मैनेजमेंट को लेकर के, डिसास्टर की जो रिस्क के रिडक्शन को लेकर के जिस तरह के काम होने चाहिए और उनकी रिपोर्टिंग जिस तरह से होनी चाहिए वो नहीं होती है, या तो सरकार के खिलाफ होती है या सरकार के पक्ष में होती है। तो ये बड़ी प्रॉब्लम होती है। और जब डिसास्टर आया होता है, जब आपदा आई होती है प्राकृतिक, तो बहुत मुश्किल होता है सरकार के लिए, क्योंकि वहीं जो है सारी की सारी एजेंसीज, जो मदद करने वाली जो एजेंसीज है वो भी पहुंची रहती हैं। डिसास्टर का जो एनडीआरएफ है या एसडीआरएफ है, स्टेट की जो यूनिट है, वो भी काम में लगी रहती है। पुलिस के लोग आते हैं, साथ ही साथ जो है मिलिट्री के लोग भी आते हैं। इवैक्यूएट करने की जल्दबाजी होती है। तो हर तरह की प्रॉब्लम्स होती हैं, और जो खास करके उत्तराखंड का जो टेरेन होता है, खास करके बहुत मुश्किल से वहां पहुंचना होता है। कट जाते हैं सारी सड़कें, आप जानते हैं पूरे हिमालयन रीजन में ये प्रॉब्लम होती है। तो ऐसे परिस्थिति में हेलीकॉप्टर से ही सबको ले जाया जाना है, और उतनी सुविधा होती नहीं है। तो इसलिए वाकई बहुत चैलेंजिंग काम होता है, और की रिपोर्टिंग होनी चाहिए वो उस तरह से नहीं होती है कि जर्नलिस्टों की ट्रेनिंग नहीं है। यदि हमको मालूम नहीं होगा कि सब्जेक्ट क्या है, मैटर क्या है, और क्लाइमेट चेंज क्या है, और प्रॉब्लम क्या है, तो हम बताएंगे कैसे? तो ये प्रॉब्लम यहाँ पर आती है। इसलिए सबसे जरूरी ये है कि सबसे पहले क्लाइमेट चेंज के बारे में हमको मालूम होना चाहिए। वी शुड नो अबाउट सस्टेनेबिलिटी, सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट क्या है, चेंज के असल कारणों को समझते होंगे, जानते होंगे उनकी प्रॉब्लम्स को, तो हम लोग स्टोरीज भी ठीक से देंगे।
Thank you for sharing that overview kind of a thing. Ajib से I'll come to Professor Kanchan Malik. आप हैदराबाद में, you're in Hyderabad, and of course also in a larger coastal belt we've seen lots of cyclones and typhoons also, and there's a community radio is also pretty strong in that belt. So क्या advantages और disadvantages है community media की to report on disasters when we see that the incidents are increasing?
So over the years, we have seen that contribution of community radio in disaster communication across India has been quite practical and also deeply human. I was checking today, and out of the 531 community radio stations, Rajiv ji, please correct me if I'm wrong, 190 are in districts that are susceptible to natural disasters. This sector as a whole has unique strengths. One of the earliest examples comes from the Kalanjiam radio in Nagapattinam. This is in Tamil Nadu, and it was established after 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. It became one of India's first stations to specifically address post-disaster response. At that time, survivors in the affected villages needed urgent and reliable information, and Kalanjiam radio stepped in to share updates on missing persons, available shelters, health advisories, and relief distribution schedules. Similar pattern was, and I'm sure it is still being followed, was seen during the Uttarakhand floods of 2013, about which we have done some research. And here also the community radios became what are called local information hubs, sharing updates on weather, landslides, road closures, and evacuation routes, because the terrain there is mountainous, so it's not easy for people coming from outside to to be able to give the information correctly. Some of our research is also on Cyclone Yash, like you said, the coastal areas near Hyderabad. But this is this is the cyclone in 2021 in Odisha, where community radio stations, I can name a few: Radio Namaskar in Konark, Radio Bulbul in Bhadrak. They began live alerts 2 days before the landfall. So this included the cyclone paths, expected wind speeds, safe shelter locations. The important thing in community radio is that they need translation, localization, and contextualization so that it makes sense to the community. So community radios, they bridge this gap and ensure the last mile connectivity. And one other thing that we relate to community radio is the two-way communication. So people can also call in and ask questions. During Yes, there were survivors who went online and shared their experiences and telling people how to manage, because they had the experience of previous storms. Also, community radios are inclusive. So So the valuable learning here is that instead of portraying communities all the time as helpless victims, the podcasts as well as the community radios also look at how people have agency, resilience, and how they are open to adaptation. So for our interns here, sustainability interns who are here, the lesson to be drawn from community radio is that disaster communication works best when it is local, when it is participatory, and when it is inclusive. And it combines credible government messages with community driven narratives. This, in the long run, because community radios help before, during, and after after the disaster, it helps. Build community driven narratives of resilience, and this is from ground up basically.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Kanchanji, for giving that kind of perspective. Particularly, the trust factor is very important in today's world for media, which is what the community radio sector enjoys. For my young friends here, while as we know about television and we know about newspapers and magazines, there's this sector which is called community radio sector. Some of the educational institutions already have the community radio section, station, but most of them don't have. And these are local FM radio stations which are good outposts for you guys to reach out for communicating your stories and messages. They're always short of content if there's a good quality content, and these stations are mostly in media dark places and remote areas. So that's a good channel for you to communicate yourself. Thanks a lot, Kanchanji. I'll come to Professor Ramesh Menon. Just to amplify and just scope of what Kanchanji said, that that's about the community radio, which is a smaller segment of the large media landscape. You yourself have covered humanitarian crisis and disasters all over India for decades, and then of course you've been teaching. So, what are the general challenges faced by media?
Whenever there is a disaster, reporters often encounter a lot of physical and psychological dangers. The very physical act of reporting from a disaster zone, it puts journalists in immediate peril. There could be unstable buildings, there could be earthquakes, there could be volatile weather conditions, there could be epidemics, there could be health dangers to journalists. Now, you will see that first responders always have specialized training. Now, they also face other issues like breakdown of power grids, communication networks, and transportation routes. Sometimes routes are blocked because of landslides, because of floods, and they are cut off completely from their news headquarters. And so communicating with them is a very major problem and a lot of tension because you can't even, you have the news, but you can't transmit it. And this is important because it's life-saving information, you know. Then there are psychological changes like trauma. You know, reporters are human beings at the end of the day. You know, they are seeing a lot of death before them. They are seeing helplessness before them. They also suffer from post-traumatic stress disorders. And also this dilemma, you know, do you help or do you report? Because there are occasions where you can actually go and help people, you know, but what is more important, you know, reporting, getting the news first, transmitting it to your office, and that's the moral dilemma. Then there is overload of information on social media. I mean, there are all kinds of things floating around. It could be real also. There are good videos, there are bad videos, there are fake videos. And online platforms are there by the thousands today. You know, so to rebut all that is really tough for a good journalist. So it's very challenging, I think, for journalists to provide accurate information that can trigger off a debate on the crisis and even lead to lending different kinds of perspectives. And I'll give you a quick example. I went to cover Latur earthquake 6 months after the earthquake. Now, why is that important? Because you can see post-traumatic stress disorders. It was a story on the psychological tremors after the earthquake. But I was lucky I was sent to do that. But most media organizations would say, oh, it's 6 months old. We are not interested.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Professor Manan. Those are very interesting things. Let's not talk about. In fact, they're not even talking about those issues actually. Coming back to Meenakshi Gupta ji, Ramesh ji mentioned about what happens after the event. That's why you come in. You have been working with the media, the best media organization, BBC, and you are also leading one of the most famous relief organizations, those are social enterprises, essentially, Gunj. So, what are your observations essentially about media coverage of disasters when you look at how the media does it really?
Thank you, Rajiv ji, first of all, for inviting me. And I'm glad that we're talking about disasters. Typically, in the last 26 years of Goon's work on disasters, we've worked on some 40 plus big disasters across the country, from the Kashmir floods to the tsunami to all parts of the country. But it's very rarely that we hear people wanting to have a conversation about disasters in non-disaster times. It typically comes at the tail end or at the beginning of a disaster, and then we kind of forget about it. So thank you for kind of mainstreaming it. That is probably one of the biggest learnings that we've come to understand about disasters over the years. And media, of course, plays a big role in that. So if I was to look back and and reflect about what role did media play. Now, Gunj didn't start, with the mandate to work on disasters. We were wanting to go into rural development work. We were wanting to work with the communities, and disasters started to affect many of these places, from tsunami to Uttarakhand floods to Bihar Kosi floods, you name it, and it started to kind of come into wherever we were. We've had to intervene in times of disasters. We've had to kind of look at how to sustain that work so that it goes into the development kind of pathway from there onwards. And therein lies the role of the media. Because what happens is that at the time of a disaster, the media kind of steps in. It comes to the notice of media that, oh my God, something has happened. And through the media, it comes to the notice of the rest of the world that here is a disaster, here is a flood which happened, and all of the rest of the, kind of unpacking of the response which happens from across the country. And we've had a very beautiful relationship. I wouldn't say relationship, but as a organic kind of a response of the media over the years, where the media played a role, whether it was Uttarakhand floods or Bihar Kosi floods, but it was more or less limited to the first phase of relief operations, and that kind of then turned into a response from the rest of the public and all of that. But we are seeing after COVID, we are seeing even that initial kind of escalation of response having gone down tremendously. So what is happening? Last year we had, for example, there were floods in 8 states of the country, and thousands of people were affected. But you would not have probably noticed much about those 8 states in the mainline media. It was very sporadic at best. There were floods in parts of Tamil Nadu, and the people of Chennai didn't know. And that was quite surprising for us. And that was surprising at what level? One level, of course, but it does affect our work directly, because when the media doesn't talk about many disasters, it talks about some but not others. For example, it talks about some big disasters, but for example, fires don't get talked about. When the people don't know about it, when agencies like Goons go to people and say, we need resources to go and do the relief work, and there's an urgency around it, then they're like, what disaster are you talking about? I don't see it anywhere. I don't see it talked about. As a result, agencies really struggle for resources to be able to respond adequately. And that is just for the relief work. And then if you had to sustain that relief work, to go into rehabilitation, to go into the development trajectory, then you can imagine then it doesn't really translate into a long-term sustained work. And when that doesn't happen, which means that next time a flood comes, then the community is, of course, weak. The work of sustaining that community, sustainability is a word we use a lot in the world. But the sustenance really comes from, we talk about NDRF, we talk about state agencies, we talk about government, but pick up any disaster and the first responders are usually the people who are the closest to a disaster. So sustainability really is about how do we strengthen them. And so how does a disaster, so Goon's work in all of these places, like I said, 40 plus big disasters in the past 2 decades. And every place, whether it is Bihar or Kerala or we have entered more or less at the time of a disaster, and we've gone into those long-term sustained work to actually work with the people of that places to repair, so that they can learn how to repair and revive their own ecosystem to build it. We have to understand that disasters are affecting, they're becoming more frequent, they're becoming more devastating, and they're coming into places that are never seen those disasters before. So as a result, it is from Goon's perspective, we are talking about it as a societal issue now. We can no more think of it as issue of some other place where we will intervene sometime. It has come to our doorstep. It has come to a point where if we don't think about doing, Rajivji, these kind of webinars in schools and colleges and corporates and all, because the decisions that we are taking in a non-disaster time are affecting. It's a interconnected thing. We are interconnected. If there is a flood in Assam, a rice farmer has a flooding of its fields, and major parts of Assam are affected, then at some point it will come to bite me in Delhi when I have to buy rice. It's not, we're not divided. We are connected with each other. And so that is the realization, I think, and Raviji also said, Sarabjit also said that we need to think about it at a systemic level. We need to think about it at a societal level. And we need to actually get the media to play the, what is it, the third pillar or the fourth pillar, to actually not only inform, but also get people to think about disasters in a different way. Because disasters are certainly changing. So it is the role of the media, and I'm observing that at a very ground level, because it is creating a crunch of resources for the people, but also at a systemic level. If you're not more coordinated, if you're not more kind of mainstreaming it in non-disaster time, we will keep reacting and we will keep coming up with the same issues.
Thanks a lot for those points. Welcome to Sarabjit ji here. Sarabjit ji, you have been watching the landscape for long now and with an expert eye also. What are your observations on the media coverage of disasters? Why does the media really go wrong in terms of misconceptions? I'm talking about the understanding essentially.
One, we more than often just assign climate change as a reason for disaster. But there's a very simplified sort of simplistic relationship which we make. Though from experience and from science, we know that disasters are very complex. They don't happen because of one reason or this. So when we start reporting in such simple way, we miss the point. And I think there are multiple factors to be highlighted. That's one part of the problem. And second part of the problem, we all know that you would see a lot of sensationalization of in terms of language, the way we present disasters in the media, particularly the digital media. People would irresponsibly use graphic images and the language is sort of very dramatic, which takes away the focus from the actual impact. And I think that is the core problem of sort of which media is not able to contribute constructively to generating a dialogue between the responders and the at-risk people and the impacted people and so on and so forth. So to me, we are missing out on the great potential of media to kindle dialogue. This is a simple sort of way of doing it, but I think the most important thing is that can media be on in the spaces where there are people at risk of disasters. And you started speaking about Uttarakhand. We have all been referring to all the extreme weather events which have been happening in the mountains, not only Uttarakhand but Himachal, Jammu and Kashmir, etc. We really are missing the reporting from the ground before disasters. We only are there after the disasters. We need a lot more human interest stories, where people are telling and putting their counter sort of opinions about what is the issue. If we really are focused on human aspects, the impact of climate, the impact of disasters on children, women, farmers, maybe elderly, maybe disabled people, then the whole reporting leads to action. That action is not getting fueled because of all the good work or all the effort that media puts in. And Mr. Menon spoke about the monumental sort of effort which media puts in to report from really hard to reach areas and inaccessible areas, and very difficult. Sometimes also it's fatal for them, for the media reporting. Effort is being made, but the results are not coming out. That's primarily my take on it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Sarabjit, for just dissecting it as it is. So that will be very helpful going forward in our discussion. Before we move to the next round of questions, I would invite some questions from interns. Some of them will send them on WhatsApp and on mails and all that, and some will send on the chat also. Nana, do we have some people here who, like Shub, I can see right now. So can we unmute him? We'll have a round of questions from the interns, and then we'll go back to our own another second round of questions. Yeah, Shubh, will you please go ahead with your question for who is it addressed to, and please introduce yourself briefly.
Namaste. I have a question for Madam Meenakshi ji. I'm Shubh Agarwal, CA finalist from Ahmedabad. How do we measure the impact of storytelling?
I think great stories are ones which resonate with us, which basically remind us something human about ourselves. One of the issues that we've noticed when, especially for disasters, when we see story reporting and all, people get talked about in a very linear fashion. Like they're only victims. It's like as if there is no other, the complexity of a human being. If I was to say, let's make it a very real scenario, that Shubh is in a city and or in a village and he's affected by a disaster, a flood, then Shubh and his need, or what he is victim, or let's donate something for Shubh's needs, that is the only aspect of Shubh that gets talked about. Whereas Shubh is an individual who has his dreams, aspirations, has dignity, would not like to be talked about as a victim only, or victim at all, actually. We all could be facing a crisis sometime, some other time, and we've seen it time and again. Whether it was in Srinagar when the city was flooded, or in Chennai when people like us who had big cars and all, our homes got flooded. To be treated as victim, no one likes to do that. No one likes to be treated like a victim. You can say I'm in a crisis for a moment. So stories which really do not make a very linear or a very, very limited picture of someone and their circumstance are stories which don't succeed, because it kind of leaves me thinking, oh, Shubh is only victim. But Shubh is much more, and it doesn't give me enough resonance with Shubh, because I'm not in a flood. Shubh is in a flood. It creates otherness about you and me, which is where the stories tend to fail, because I can't then relate to Shubh. Because if I'm not in a flood myself, I will not be able to relate to Shubh. But if I was to talk about Shubh in his resilience, how he's still dealing with his challenges, how he's kind of done some good things for other people, saved somebody in a flood, or all of those things, it really presents a bigger picture of people and their circumstance. So I feel people to be talked about in the fullness of who they are is what makes a beautiful story, or a story which moves other people.
Thanks, Dr. Meenakshi. Shubh, I hope that answers it in a more detailed way. I think we'll come back to you later. There are more people here right now, and then we'll come back to you later, Shubh, please. We have Gorangi who has a question.
So I'm Garangi. I have recently graduated from Amity University, Noida, with a degree in economics. I have a question for Professor Ramesh Menon. What strategies can help young people tell climate stories that inform and mobilize others without triggering eco anxiety or a sense of hopelessness?
See, one of the most important things to do is to humanize stories. And for that, you need to develop a sense of empathy. We all think that we are very empathetic in nature. We are not. We all run away from empathy. So, you consciously, if you want to do stories, you have to develop that sense of empathy, especially when you are into disaster coverage. Then look for stories which give you hope, because all the negative stories gets amplified, the positive stories die down. And I think it is very, very important to do positive stories, because it gives a lot of hope, not only to readers but also to the people there, that look, there is something to look forward to, there is light at the end of the tunnel, you know. And the third thing to do is to structure your story. Technically, there has to be a certain way of storytelling which you have to develop. Everyone has a different voice, so we'll tell stories differently. But if you're empathetic, you will tell a great story. Look at the human aspects of the disaster, talk about it, also talk about why it happened, because that is very, very important for people to know that, look, most of the disasters are man-made. We could have avoided it, but we were careless. We did not care a damn about what we are doing with the environment, and the disaster happened, and we could have avoided it. Second is talk about the future. What are the things that we can do? What are the solutions? How can we avoid a disaster of this kind happening again? I think then you have a great story on hand.
So, good evening, everyone. My name is Tisha Raukar, and I am a student of Kanoria PG Mehla Mahavidyalaya, pursuing my graduation in economics honors first year. And I wanted to know that how can storytelling serve as a bridge between scientific knowledge on climate change and the emotional understanding needed to thrive policy?
रियली बहुत सही क्वेश्चन है। बेसिकली जो मेनन साहब ने कहा कि जर्नलिस्टों की ट्रेनिंग नहीं है। यदि हमको मालूम नहीं होगा कि सब्जेक्ट क्या है, मैटर क्या है और क्लाइमेट चेंज क्या है और प्रॉब्लम क्या है, तो हम बताएंगे कैसे? तो ऐसे में हम लोग जो बहुत ऊपर से जो देखते हैं चीजें वही देते हैं। तो ये प्रॉब्लम यहाँ पर आती है। इसलिए सबसे जरूरी ये है कि सबसे पहले क्लाइमेट चेंज के बारे में हमको मालूम होना चाहिए। वी शुड नो अबाउट सस्टेनेबिलिटी। सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट क्या है, जो हमारी डेवलपमेंट की पॉलिसीज हैं गवर्नमेंट की, वो सही है कि नहीं है, लोगों की आकांक्षाएं क्या हैं। और यदि हम क्लाइमेट चेंज के असल कारणों को समझते होंगे, जानते होंगे उनकी प्रॉब्लम्स को, तो हम लोग स्टोरीज भी ठीक से देंगे। तो ये लगता है, तो इसलिए मुझे लगता है कि हम लोग को ज्यादा से ज्यादा पढ़ाई करनी चाहिए। हमारे जो बहुत बढ़िया हमारे बड़े भाई मेनन साहब ने कहा कि ट्रेनिंग नहीं हो रही।
And I'm from Assam. I have a question for Professor Ramesh Menon, sir. Sir, in our storytelling efforts, people, they get aware of what we are trying to tell them, but they hesitate to take action because they doubt if their individual action will even help in the collective climate change solution. So how can we inspire them to take the steps?
Very good question. Talk about individual heroes who have done great stuff. I'll give you a very quick example. For example, in Maharashtra, there is a district called Ahmednagar. It is a drought-prone district. And there is a village called Hervere Bazar. There, one man, a young man who became the sarpanch of the village, he changed the entire village. into a very sustainable ecosystem. Today, they have water in their wells, their fields are green, they use solar energy, their roads are extremely clean, in spite of the fact that they don't have a single sweeper in the village. Okay, you don't have cows moving on the roads. They have dedicated areas for the cows there. So you don't have cow dung on the streets. You don't have chocolate wrappers on the street. Everything is done to perfection. They have a dairy industry there, and it's one of the most, uh, what would I say? The one of the most best examples that you can see of sustainability. There are over 60 millionaires in that village. It was a poverty struck village full of alcoholism, domestic violence. Today there is no alcoholism because no one is permitted to have alcohol there. There is no tobacco use. There is no substance use. And people are rich. There are 3 banks in that village because there is so much of money. Many years ago, they had just two families which were below the poverty line, and the villagers were ashamed of the fact that we have 2 families like that. So they all worked to lift those 2 families. Today, there is no poor family in that village. So use examples like this where one individual can do so much, so that skepticism that you have today, they're saying that what can one individual do, goes away. And there are so many stories like this all over India. You just have to go and search for them, and you'll find great examples of sustainability from single heroes, very normal people. They are not exotic, highly educated people, but they have done wonderful work.
Besachi Senapati from Odisha. I am pursuing MSc Chemistry in SS Autonomous College. I have a question for Professor Kanchana K. Malik ma'am. How can storytelling on sustainable development using on mass media and social platform inspire and empower rural citizen and youth to generate creativity and actionable ideas for the society benefits?
Very nice question, and especially relevant because I think a lot of the people here in the panel are looking at mainstream media, right? So we feel at least that any effective communication begins by at the community level, right? So it's only when community voices are involved in stories that they become inspiring also. So we have to go beyond the headlines. So we were talking, I think, during the discussion also about first respondents, or we are talking about a lot of misinformation flowing, the journalists not being trained to be able to write in a manner that it covers the disaster or or any other development related issue in a holistic manner. But we are ignoring a whole sector in media, which is the community media sector. I think that is where we really need to strengthen the community radio sector, because it is only when people will tell their own stories, when people will have a platform where they can come and talk about their lived experiences, where so this is very different. As I said, this is going beyond the headlines. So I know it's very different from the kind of coverage that is required from mainstream media. Now mainstream media has a different kind of a purpose, so I am not getting into that. But the question that Sabyasachi has asked about inspiring stories, or stories that are that come from the ground level, that speak of local realities, or stories which inspire the youth. It is when the youth have a platform where they can come and talk about their issues, right, in the way that it affects them. That is what will lead to credible stories, and stories which are not like someone had said, when you have a camera, the people act for it.
Talking about disaster, so where Ishika lives, it's raining there. So that is for Mr. Sarabjit Singh Sahota. What common mistakes should young journalists avoid in disaster reporting, and how can media balance urgency with accuracy while preventing sensationalism?
It's not very difficult to become factual. in 2024, UNICEF did a small research. In 85 countries, we looked at government orders for closure of schools due to heat wave, disaster, hydrometeorological disaster. So basically looking at what is the impact of climate change. And we found out that 250 million children in 85 countries their learning was impacted because of closure of schools. Isn't that a, a huge sort of headline statement for you? You can certainly layer it with human interest stories along with it. Little deeper sort of engagement with the dirtier boots, basically, as they say, and get involved in the real story of people, but with some evidence, some data, which makes it factual. Um, of course, there are number of other ways in which you can collect information during disasters, not only by talking to people, but also talking to government, talking to researchers in the local researchers, particularly. Uh, that comes to my mind. So thanks for the question.
Good evening, respected panel members. I'm Apura Mittal. I'm currently doing my master's in botany from University of Rajasthan. What does responsible media coverage look like, and how can we as students help ensure that the right messages reach people?
Disaster risk management is dependent on information. When I need to manage a certain disaster, I need certain information. Who's impacted, where, how much, etc., etc. And my first source of information is always media, because it takes me time, my people, to arrive on ground and work with the government and others. The second source of media information is always government. So we would always sort of engage and work. So maintaining your relationship with the people who have information, who can have information. I think that's relationship management. Because that's information is the currency, when it comes to good reporting.
Question from Sujata S, and that question is for Professor Ramesh Menon. The question is, are the editors of print media and AV channels ready to allocate more space and time for environment and climate when we are experiencing from global warming to global boiling?
Well, the sad story is that they are not ready to do that. It's also because they are ignorant. They have no idea about the extent of damage happening. So, since they don't know, they don't think it is important. That is why, as one of our speakers highlighted, in good old days, we had a development reporter, we had an agriculture reporter, we had an environment reporter, we had a health reporter. Today, you don't have any of them. I mean, it's very exceptional that any media organization would have someone covering environment. And disasters, of course, is out of the question. They don't have anyone who specializes in this, though it is happening all over India. Every state is facing some kind of problem or the other, but the media has not woken up to it. And I think that is a tragedy. I'm sorry to sound so skeptical, but this is the truth of the matter.
I think thanks a lot, Professor Menon. I think I'll slightly differ here. I think most of the newspapers still have agricultural reporters, and also environment is getting, they may not have, lots of them may not have dedicated reporters, but environment has been getting lots of coverage, maybe not in proportion to the disasters, unfortunately, but I think the coverage has overall increased. The quality of coverage is something which is debatable, of course. So I'd just like to thank all the speakers, esteemed speakers, and just sum up quickly. There are quite a few takers. I think there's some keywords which are emerged from the what speaker said. That trust is the one of the most important factors for media. Accuracy, facts, and of course, as Ramesh Menon said, solution-oriented kind of stories. Larger perspectives are very important. We need to have the big picture, as Meenakshi ji said, while we'll look at development and disaster in a totality rather than disasters separately. These are not boxes, separate boxes. These are just parts of a whole development perspective. And then, of course, humanize our stories. The empathy factor is very important, but not to get carried away, as Professor Abhishek Menon pointed out. Community media is very important, building trust and also linking our people. And I think if I go back to what Sarabjit ji said, it's basically about common sense. At the end of the day, applying your discretion and, of course, doing it in good faith. That's where we come from. So with this, I think I'll thank all my esteemed panelists. Thanks a lot for joining in, Professor Kanchan Malik. Thanks a lot for taking our time. And also Professor Ramesh Menon from his busy schedule. Meenakshi Gupta ji, of course, there's so much happening in the country and you're spending some time with us. I'm sure you're contributing to the future people, young people who are going to be important in taking us through future disasters. And of course, Sarabjit ji, who has been always kind enough to spare this time for us. Thanks a lot. And Govind Singh ji is still there, but due to poor connectivity, because lots of people are affected right from Jammu to Jaipur to Uttarakhand, of course. So thanks a lot, and we'll look forward to connecting with you all again. Thanks a lot.